Gadgets that once ruled our lives, a journey through the golden age of technology. There are moments in life when a new gadget doesn't just make you want to own it, it sets the whole town buzzing. Back then, every innovation, no matter how small, opened an entirely new door, bringing music right to your hands, carrying moving pictures into your bedroom, or letting you change the TV channel without leaving your chair. Today, we're stepping back through that door, into the decades when must-have gadgets didn't just change the way we lived, they became part of the stories of our lives. In the 1950s, radios still sat fixed in a corner of the living room. They were big, heavy, and no one imagined the day music would break free from those four walls. Then came the Regency TR1, small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, battery-powered, and suddenly turning the whole town into a moving concert. I still remember kids pedaling down country roads, one hand gripping the handlebars, the other holding a radio close to their ear to catch the top 40. On summer afternoons, my father would set the radio on the porch steps, listening to the news while sipping his tea. The sound of music blending with cicadas and the scent of freshly cut grass. That's something no modern streaming app can give you. The Regency TR1 wasn't just a gadget, it was the birth of personal music, ushering in a time when entertainment could follow you anywhere. Today, every song you've ever loved fits into your phone, but the memory of holding an entire world of sound in your hand is hard to forget. In the early 1960s, the idea of taking a TV anywhere sounded like science fiction. And yet, the Sony TV-8 arrived with a tiny black and white screen, a pull-out antenna, and the ability to run on batteries. My family didn't own one, but my uncle next door did. On camping trips, he'd carry the TV-8 out to the edge of the woods, raising the antenna high to catch a signal. We'd gather around, eyes fixed on the tiny screen showing a baseball game. The tinny sound crackling from its small speaker mixed with the nighttime chorus of crickets, a strange but magical blend of technology and nature. Weighing nearly 6 kilograms and costing the equivalent of a few months' salary, the TV-8 was a luxury. But for those who had it, the simple joy of watching your favorite program without fighting for the living room set was nothing short of miraculous. Today, with video in our pockets, it's hard to imagine that kind of happiness. Before remote controls were part of everyday life, changing the channel meant getting up. Then in 1956 came the Zenith Space Command, the first wireless TV remote using ultrasonic sound. My grandmother told me that the first time she saw my grandfather press click and the TV picture change, she thought she'd just witnessed a magic trick. The device didn't need batteries. Inside were small aluminum rods that, when struck, emitted high-frequency sounds inaudible to the human ear, but the TV understood. Today, surrounded by countless remote controls, the Space Command might seem primitive, but in the 1950s, it was a symbol of the future. That click, dry, sharp, and final now exists only in memory. In 1983, when Casio introduced the G-Shock, they weren't just selling a watch, they were making a statement. Drop me if you dare, I'll still keep ticking. 3 layers of protection, the ability to survive a 10-meter fall, and near absolute shock resistance. I remember in school the boys who owned G-Shocks would always rest their arms on the desk, as if to make sure the whole class noticed. Its angular face, the mix of analog hands and digital numbers, plus the stopwatch alarm and calendar, all wrapped in a thick rubber casing. To us, the G-Shock didn't just measure time, it measured personality. Today, smartwatches can do everything from tracking your heartbeat to giving you directions. Yet the G-Shock still holds its ground, still sought after because what it offers isn't just function, it's attitude. In the 1950s, men usually shaved at home, in front of the bathroom mirror. But with the Philips battery shaver, that could happen anywhere. A small battery-powered shaver, complete with a tiny mirror, all tucked neatly into a portable case. My father had one. He'd take it along on business trips, open the hotel window in the morning so sunlight streamed onto the mirror, and shave neatly before meeting clients. No metallic scrape of a blade, just the steady hum of the motor and the faint scent of shaving cream. Modern electric razors are faster and quieter now, but the image of that little Philips case with its cord connecting the battery to the shaver, is still a warm memory of a time when a neat appearance was a sign of respect. Before mobile phones were everywhere, the pager was a symbol of busyness and importance. One short beep was enough to tell you someone needed you. In the 1980s, doctors, business people, technicians, they all had pagers clipped to their belts. Messages were usually just a string of numbers or a few letters, but they carried the weight of urgency. I remember the first time I held my uncle's pager. The small screen lighting up with digits made me feel like I was touching the future of communication. Today, smartphones have rolled everything into one device, but that simple beep and the anticipation of waiting for a message like a secret signal remains part of the memory of those years. In 1979, Sony released the Walkman, the first pocket-sized cassette player, and the world of music was never the same again. For the first time, you could carry your favorite album with you, listening anywhere, anytime, without bothering anyone else. I remember summer afternoons, walking home with the Walkman's headphones pressed to my ears, the TDK tape turning inside, every song transforming the familiar street into a scene from my own private movie. For many, the Walkman wasn't just a device, it was a lifestyle. So much so that Walkman Head became a nickname for those who couldn't live without personal music. Today, phones and streaming services have replaced it all. But the feeling of flipping the tape when side A ended, or the dread of the mechanism chewing up your favorite song, is something only that generation ever knew. In the 1960s, if you were lucky enough to get a Sears walkie-talkie set for Christmas, the rest of your winter and summer would never be quiet again. With just a push of a button and a quick over, you and your friends could become police officers, firefighters, or secret agents on top-secret missions. These walkie-talkies ran on Citizen Band Channel 14 with a range of nearly 3/4 of a mile. The static crackle before your voice came through on the other end felt like a cinematic sound effect any spy movie would envy. We climbed trees, hid behind fences, and dashed down the street, every distance shortened by that little microphone. Today, smartphones let you call or text instantly, but the thrill of waiting for that signal and hearing the static before your friend's voice, no modern device can replace it. Before 1966, most households still cooked on gas or electric stoves. When Panasonic introduced the first affordable home microwave oven, it was nothing short of a revolution. My mother still remembers seeing that compact little oven on the kitchen counter for the first time, with its simple dials for time and power. In just minutes, a plate of cold rice turned into a steaming hot dinner. No lighting the stove, no constant watching, just listen for the ding, and it was ready. It was still expensive then, equivalent to over $4,000 in today's money. But convenience won everyone over. Now microwaves are everywhere, but the sense of magic from those first moments belongs only to that era. In 1970, when Canon unveiled the Pocketronic, both students and business people were astonished. A true pocket calculator, no longer the massive machines that took up an entire desk. I remember holding one for the first time. Tiny buttons, a simple display. Yet it could calculate square roots, percentages, and other complex operations. It wasn't cheap, but for the convenience, everyone agreed it was worth it. Today, every phone has a calculator far more powerful. But the Pocketronic remains a symbol of the moment when technology first began shrinking to follow us everywhere. Before VCRs, if you missed a TV show, you could only hope for a rerun, if there was one. In 1972, Philips released the N1500, one of the first home video recorders. It didn't just play tapes, it could record live television so you could watch it later. My uncle once recorded his favorite football game, then invited the whole family over the next night to watch. Pressing play and seeing those images replayed as if they had been trapped inside that black plastic box felt thrillingly new. Today, rewinding, saving, and watching anything anytime is just part of daily life with the internet. But for us, the N1500 was the first machine that could bend time right there in the living room. In 1981, IBM released the Model 5150 and shook the technology world. Before that, computers were massive metal beasts, found only in laboratories, or the offices of large corporations. Suddenly, here was a machine small enough to sit on a desk, and anyone could own one. I remember seeing it for the first time at the electronics store in town, a monochrome screen, a heavy keyboard, and the faint, constant hum of its fan. The store owner typed a few commands. Green letters appeared on the black screen, and I realized I was staring at the future. Even though its memory was measured in kilobytes, the 5150 laid the first stone for the personal computer industry. Today, the power of hundreds of 5150s combined fits easily inside a single phone. 3 years later, in 1984, Apple unveiled the Macintosh with its now legendary Super Bowl commercial. If IBM had opened the door to bring computers to the public, the Macintosh made that experience friendly and approachable. For the first time, a graphical user interface with icons, windows, and a mouse was brought to everyday users. No more memorizing complicated commands. You could just point, click, and drag. At school, some classrooms began receiving Macintoshes. I still remember the feel of that beige mouse, sliding it gently and watching the cursor move across the screen. It felt personal, like the machine understood me. The Macintosh didn't just change computers. It changed the way people and technology spoke to each other. In 1978, when the Magnavox Laserdisc player arrived, many thought it was the future of home entertainment. Large, shiny discs the size of vinyl records held up to 30 minutes of video per side with picture quality far beyond VHS. I first saw it in action at a friend of my father's house. They slid a silver disc into the tray, pressed a button, and the images appeared smooth and crisp. We watched a movie together, and it felt like being in a theater. But laser discs were too expensive and bulky to compete with VHS. Still, they planted the seed for optical disc technology, paving the way for CDs and DVDs. Before the Altair 8800, the idea of owning a computer at home was almost absurd. But in 1975, a blue metal box covered with switches and tiny LEDs changed everything. No screen, no mouse. You entered commands by flipping switches to send binary code, then watched the lights blink back in response. For tech enthusiasts of the time, it was an irresistible intellectual puzzle. A friend of mine wrote simple text-based games on his Altair, the kind that began, "You are in a dark room." No graphics, no sound, just imagination leading the way. The Altair wasn't perfect, but it planted the belief that computers could find their way into every home. In the early 20th century, photography was a complicated and expensive process, reserved for those with technical knowledge. Then Kodak released the Brownie, a small, easy-to-use, and affordable box camera that allowed many families to own one for the first time. Its famous slogan was, "You press the button, we do the rest." No settings to adjust, just point and shoot. For many, this was the first camera to capture a child's birthday, a trip to the beach, or a family gathering. Today, smartphones make photography an everyday habit, but the excitement of waiting for Brownie film to be developed, wondering how the moment you captured would turn out, is something only those who lived it can understand. In 1994, Connectix introduced the QuickCam, one of the first commercial webcams for personal computers. Before that, seeing someone's face over the internet was almost unimaginable for the average user. I remember trying the QuickCam for the first time at a friend's house. The image was grainy, black and white, sometimes jerky, but seeing the face of someone hundreds or even thousands of miles away, right there on the computer screen, felt like magic at the time. Today, high-definition video calls are routine, but the QuickCam was the starting point for every Zoom meeting, FaceTime call, and Google Meet session we take for granted. In 1986, Compaq released the Desk Pro 386, the most powerful personal computer for business users at the time. Equipped with the lightning-fast Intel 386 chip and between 1 and 4 MB of RAM, it unlocked the ability to run complex applications and process data faster than ever. In offices, the Desk Pro 386 wasn't just a tool, it was a symbol of productivity and prestige. The steady clack of mechanical keys echoed through brightly lit workspaces, the sound of a time when computers began driving the economy forward. Today's thin laptops have far more power, but the Desk Pro 386 is remembered as a milestone that proved personal computers could be both powerful and reliable. In 1989, Motorola introduced the MicroTAC, the first flip phone, compact and futuristic in design. Compared to the bulky bricks that came before, the MicroTAC was a revolution. It could store 30 phone numbers, offered speed dialing, and call forwarding, features that sound ordinary now, but were dreams back then. I still remember the first time I saw someone flip open the phone and hold it to their ear. It looked straight out of a science fiction movie. The MicroTAC paved the way for an entire generation of slimmer, sleeker mobile phones, and ultimately for the smartphones we carry everywhere today. Before mobile phones arrived, every call began from a landline at home or at the office. If you were out on the street, your only option was to find a public payphone booth. I still remember the rotary dial, the soft tick-tick-tick as it spun back to place. Glass phone booths, with warm yellow light spilling onto rain-soaked tiles, were a familiar sight in many cities. Making a call back then required patience and a few coins in your pocket. Today, it all fits in the palm of your hand. But the memory of that long, steady ring and the voice traveling through copper wires remains the sound of a slower, more deliberate era of communication. Before smartphones came with built-in recording features, journalists, secretaries, and anyone who needed to take quick notes relied on dictaphone recorders. These compact devices, using mini cassette tapes, allowed people to preserve interviews, speeches, or sudden flashes of inspiration. I remember watching a reporter place a dictaphone on the table, press the red button, and let their guest's words flow onto the tape. Today, you can record and edit audio with just a few taps on your phone. But the sight of a tape slowly turning and the need to guard every precious recorded minute brings back memories of a more hands-on, devoted era of journalism. In 1963, Kodak introduced the Instamatic, a camera that used special cartridge film, making loading film incredibly simple. I remember family trips where my father would pop open the back, slip in the cartridge, close it, and it was ready to shoot. No threading film through sprockets, just aim and click. This convenience meant countless everyday moments were preserved forever. Though digital cameras and phones have since taken over, the Instamatic remains a symbol of photography for everyone, where technical skill was no longer a barrier to memory. In the late 1970s, the idea of a robot still felt far off, usually seen only in science fiction films. But then came the Armatron, appearing in Radio Shack stores, a toy you could control to pick up small objects with its robotic arm. I once tried it at a display counter, both hands gripping the controls, concentrating to grasp a small plastic block and place it just right. For a child, it was like touching the future. Today, robots have entered industries, homes, and daily life. But the Armatron is still a sweet memory of a time when the future was just close enough to touch. In 1989, Nintendo launched the Game Boy and instantly sparked a global craze. Before that, video games were tied to arcade machines or home consoles in the living room. The Game Boy broke those boundaries, letting you take gaming anywhere. With its monochrome screen and iconic titles like Tetris and Super Mario Land, the Game Boy turned long bus rides or hours in a waiting room into moments of pure fun. I remember being so absorbed in stacking Tetris blocks that I forgot all about lunch. Priced at just $90 at the time, the Game Boy became the Christmas gift every kid dreamed of. Though it has long been replaced by more advanced consoles, that little gray device with its 4 buttons remains an icon of the golden age of handheld gaming. Today, most of these devices are gone, replaced by multifunctional smartphones or newer technologies. Yet each one was once a dream, a milestone, and part of daily life. They remind us that technology isn't just about chips and circuitry, it's about moments. The click of a remote changing the channel, the beep of a pager, the static crackle of a walkie-talkie, or the glow of yellow light in a rain-soaked phone booth. We may now carry the whole world in our pockets, but sometimes it's the simple gadgets of the past that make that world worth remembering.